This one. Call this Topsham Board of Selectmen, Topsham Select Board meeting to order June 16, 2022 from the Donald A. Russell Meeting Room. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Patty, would you call the roll?
Major Douglas.
I am here.
Marie Brilliant. Here. Matt Nixon.
Present.
And I understand Ruth Lyons and Roland Tubbs have been excused.
Thank you, Patty. Town Manager's report.
Welcome, everyone. Here's my report. Maine Department of Transportation will be installing rumble strips later this summer on Route 201, beginning at the 50-mile-per-hour sign north of Old Augusta Road, and continuing about 3.7 miles to the pavement joint south of the Bowden Topsham town line. The strips are a new design that is not as deep as the previous ones, but have the same benefits, alerting distracted driver without excessive noise that was heard with the previous design. So that happened later on in the summer, and we'll inform the butters when that happens. I'd like to recognize and thank Brandy Lohr, Amanda Campbell, and our gracious election workers, Public Works Department, and supporting staff for a successful June 14th election at Mount Ararat High School. The results have been posted and are currently on the website. Granite posts are being prepared for the installation by Public Works for the new historical signs that we had ordered a few years ago. They haven't delivered finally.
Fantastic.
They'll be displayed at several locations in Topsham. Locations include the Bowden Mill, Elm Street, Feldspar Mill area, and the Topsham Fairgrounds. So we should expect to see those sometime soon. Tom Lister, Topsham's Code Enforcement Officer, was appointed to the State Technical Building Codes and Standards Board by Governor Mills. The board is made up of 12 members, each with a specific background. Tom will serve in the Municipal Code Enforcement Service Center community seat for a 4-year term. This is an honor for both Tom and the town of Topsham, and is a reflection of his outstanding work for the town. And I'd also like to introduce our summer 2022 Bowden interns. Excuse me if I pronounce the last names wrong, okay? Boaz Malakoff, Jonas Christensen, and they'll each be working with town administration, and Theo Curran, who's not here tonight, will be working with the planning department this summer. So we look forward to the work and hope their experience is good and continue a strong relationship with them. And thank you and have a good evening.
Any questions of the manager?
I have one quick one. In the report, you had mentioned, or the written report, there was something with environmental conditions here, the DEP.
Yes, DEP recognized that upon the after the construction of the building, there were some permits that need to be resolved. Being compliance mark, going on that.
DEP was doing a file audit and they found that we had requirements that when this building was built, we were supposed to record the conditions that they gave us to do what we did for the building. One of which was because there was an old gas station more on the public safety side. There's 2 areas that you're not supposed to dig into the ground without doing a bunch of extra special work. And that's supposed to be recorded. And so we are working with them to get done what they want done. And then the attorney we're working with at Bernstein Shore said, funny you're contacting us because we just got another old one from DEP. So they must be searching the file.
Yeah.
So we'll probably, I don't know if it'll be the next meeting in July or the second meeting in July. But once the attorneys are done with the agreement, we'll have something in front of you that you guys will authorize us to execute or actually sign it yourselves. And then we'll get it recorded and we'll be good in DEP's eyes.
Thanks, Mark.
We've been here 12 years, right? Okay. So we've got to sign off on conditions from 15 years ago as a group. Matt, you go first.
Not supposed to be able to speak for the board, right?
Any other questions of the manager? Thank you. Board committee reports and updates, none. Public comment? No. And I
I am ill prepared for the next one, correspondence, but we did get one correspondence, and I'm quickly trying to open my email. You don't by chance have it with you, Matt? Charlene, I got it right here. Charlene Swift of 6 Quartz Bluff Road sent Matt and I an email, and then I forwarded it to the rest of the board members. She didn't have the email. She had attached a letter and an infographic in PDF in response to a recent Forecaster Times Record article where the assistant town manager was quoted. And it was in reference to the Topsham Pride crosswalk. June 6, 2022, Dear Topsham Board of Selectmen, I recently read the June 2nd issue of the Forecaster that an inquiry had been made to the town of Topsham for a Rainbow Pride painted crosswalk similar to the one installed on Main Street in Brunswick. Assistant Town Manager Mark Waltz quoted responses are insufficient, and to people like me in the LGBTQ plus community come across as thinly veiled homophobia. Mr. Waltz is quoted as saying that the primary function of crosswalks is to get pedestrians safely across the street. And I find my attention is directed to the pavement marking due to all the color that makes it harder to notice a pedestrian. I live off Cat Ants Road and drive by the head of Tide Park daily. When the town took over the maintenance of that park several years ago, decisions were made to enhance the safety of pedestrians by adding color to the crosswalk. I assume this is because this section of the street is one where people are often going very fast due to the curve of the road and the hills on the other side. The color in between the white crosswalk paint is the same color as a bright yellow as the road lines, which effectively draws drivers' attention to the crosswalk, making it clear that you should slow down and look for pedestrians. I realize that this is not the same as inserting rainbow colors into the crosswalk, but it is a great example of how color is used to draw attention to the crosswalk. Maine Public reported last year, 6/11/2021, on a Pride crosswalk request by students in Ellsworth. And in that article, it was reported that Maine Department of Transportation guidance allows for municipalities to choose a fill-in pattern for crosswalks different from the traditional white stripes. There is no Maine DOT prohibition of using bright colors in one of the standard crosswalk designs. LGBTQ plus people have lived, worked, volunteered, raised their families and owned businesses in Topsham for decades, and creating a pride walkway is a fantastic show of inclusivity and a community. I appreciate the town seriously consider it as a more permanent display of community recognition and celebration of our diversity. Mr. Waltz's responses, instead communicating dismissal rather than an opportunity to explore the benefits of such action. One suggestion would be to utilize one of the crosswalks on Main Street near the municipal buildings so that it would be visible to youth who may walk that route before or after school. I'm attaching a PDF in 2019 results from the Maine Integrated Youth Health Survey indicating 13.6 Maine high school students identify as LGBTQ, that those youth are experiencing more violence and discrimination and that they receive less support from adults in their communities overall. This is one of the many reasons why it's important to show support for the LGBTQ plus people, because young people need to see support embracing diversity reflected in their communities to feel safe, secure, and that they matter. It literally is a public safety issue for LGBTQ plus youth and adults for that matter. I'd be happy to discuss further with the board's consideration. Charlotte Swift. I sent that over to everyone on the board.
13.6%.
Good.
13.6.
Oh, did I say that? Yeah, so, okay. The survey indicated 13.6% of Maine high school students identify as LGBTQ. Yeah, that's a big difference. No, but it is a big difference. Did anyone else have correspondence week? Nothing. Adjustments to the agenda? Nothing. We were still looking at correspondence, Matt. I'm sorry.
I don't think I did that. No, I'm good.
Consent calendar, approval of the minutes of the regular select board meeting, June 2, 2022. Make a motion that we accept them as submitted.
Second.
Motion and seconded. All those in favor? We have nobody on, none of our people are online, right? None of our.
No select board.
Okay. We don't want to stress Patty out. No unfinished business, and on to no old business. We're on to new business. Look at us go. 2246, consideration any appropriate action on a request for no parking / restricted parking on Lower Winter Street. Public Works Director.
Good evening, everyone. Dennis Cox, Topsham Public Works. I had a request from the residents at 5 Winter Street in McDonald's requesting a no parking sign on the Winter Street side, the lower end of Winter Street by their property. It's a decision that would have to be made by the select board, not by the Public Works Director. So that's what purpose of bringing it forward to you folks to consider that if you'd like. Rather than go through the reasons that they have, the McDonald's are here tonight, so I'd like them to speak on that behalf. If it's all right with you folks.
Of course.
Hello, I'm Aretha and my husband Ryan and daughter Mikey. So we've been living at 5 Winter Street for 5 years, and we've seen winter turn into a one-way, and we really love that adjustment as well as the triangle. It's really helped with safety issues. However, it's also meant that we have folks parked on the northwest side and the southeast sides of our driveway, effectively sort of hemming us in on either side, and sometimes right in front of our driveway, but that's not often the case. So it brings up other sort of safety issues as well as some access issues and aesthetic issues, which I'd like to address as well. But first and foremost, safety. So basically, when we exit out of our driveway, the cars that are parked, particularly on the northwest side, are blocking visibility. And we have to back out into the right side of Winter, but we've got cars parked there. Cars are still going down at a pretty high speed, unfortunately, even though there's plenty of measures that have been put into place to let people know it's 25 miles an hour. So it's dangerous, and we've actually almost been hit several times. And we also, anyway, yeah, so that's the main issue, and that's getting out of the driveway. Getting into the driveway, sort of coming down Elm Street, and we go to the yield sign. It's more that it's this sort of absurd dance that ends up happening. So it's basically, we just need to go the length of our house to get into our driveway, but we've got cars parked on that left side of Winter that we have to dodge, go around. So we're getting into the right side and then we come back onto the left side to get into our house. So that, and then there's access issues. So we have cars parked right in front of our walkway. So it's just a walkway right out of our house, a couple feet into the street, and they're right there. And so that's blocking postal workers, it's blocking us. It's just blocking the access of our driveway. We also occasionally have had postal workers now have to park on the opposite side of the street. So it's become such a popular site now for parking that postal workers now are forced to park on the other side where there isn't any parking in order to do mail delivery. And that brings up other sort of safety issues, obviously. So there's access, and then the aesthetic reasons is that we've had an increase in just trash, people parking there, dumping cigarette butts. We clean up trash daily. We clean up all kinds of trash, mostly cigarette butts and also just fast food trash in our yard. We can smell cigarette smoke there, so exposing our family and 5-year-old daughter to cigarette smoke, and there's sometimes some fun music. In this past year alone, we have invested quite a bit into our home and into the facade of our house, and we want to continue to invest in our historic home and in this neighborhood. And aesthetically, sometimes too, it can be an eyesore. And we have a picture of a car that says "You suck" on the back of it, parked right in front of our house. And I don't know if you want to take a look, but that's right in front of our house.
Message to the dog.
Message, I don't know. It's a message too, but it's not, we try and take care of our home and care about our home, and not the best thing to have right in front of their house. It's our impression that most of the cars parked there are coming from an apartment complex across the street where there are 3 units, but somewhere upward of 7 cars. We're told that they're supposed to park in the lot of the old fire station, so there's a pretty substantial lot there. They also have designated parking in the driveway and in the lot right behind their building. So we don't personally see a need for additional parking right in front of our house, especially when it causes potential danger. Yeah, again, we enjoy living here. We want to continually invest in our home, but we see this as an issue that we hope that you can help us resolve. Thanks. You have
Thank
any
you.
questions?
I don't think I did.
No.
I get it.
Okay, great, thanks.
I just want to show the board as well that the master plan for the town that just was completed here a year or so ago included parking in this area. The master plan prescribed parking in this area for the downtown businesses. That was one of the plans as the road was made one way down in this area. Planning board asked me to support that master plan discussion as well here tonight, so that you were aware of that.
Dennis, how many beyond their driveway? There's 2 spaces, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't want to speak for them, but I think the 2 spaces beyond the driveway are not problematic.
They're not as problematic for safety issues because as we're trying to get into winter, it's really the cars that are, I think it's directionally it's the northwest side. So we're coming out of the driveway, it's on the right side. So the ones on the left aren't that big of an issue. We would be fine to have that continue to be parking. It's the stuff that happens on the other side up the length of our house.
I'll chime in. So I went and drove the area, looked at it, was gonna pull in your driveway, but I didn't know if that freaked you out too long. But I agree with the no parking request, but not under the conditions you would ask, for nothing about you backing into traffic, which I think you'd find you can't back into a traffic. You've got to drive out into it to be safe. People sitting there smoking, I get it. We all dislike it. But it's now that we put the island in, when somebody takes that immediate turn around, if you came down on the street extension, and you took that immediate cut, as you come off that corner, you can be right into the back of those cars. And I think that's what I saw as the largest concern, particularly if we don't, and I don't think we don't line it out, disseminating where the lanes are and stuff. That's where the concern I had. But I will say, I won't support any more no parking anywhere in Topsham if we don't enforce the no parking areas we currently have today. And here's a list of them. And I'll be honest, I'm tired of driving in these areas where it says there's no parking and there's parking throughout the day and nobody addresses it. So if I'm going to support doing anything, it's going to come with an expectation of enforcement. And so that's the only way I will vote for any additional, because there's no sense in making a rule if nobody's going to enforce it. It's always my thought. We'll let Augusta do that, DC. Hopefully we'll enforce our rules. So that's my take on this. We welcome you.
I think your point makes a lot of sense. I don't use that turn a whole lot myself. I do come down quite a bit from gymnastics, not for me.
Yes. I'm glad you did that.
There's no shame in it if you did gymnastics.
But it is pretty tight there, so I get consensus. And I think Dave's point is well taken. It's a blind curve. Yeah, and especially because it is an area that has changed or transitioned quite a bit over the last years now, and it's not mine. Yeah, I wouldn't have problems. But I think your point, I mean, I was complaining to Dave earlier about the end of Forsyth used to have a bunch of no parking signs by the bridge, and somebody's been running them over for the last like 5 years now. So like, check that out too.
I mean, for the safety issue of it is my biggest concern. Where I think it would be a good thing.
Dennis, I would say, if anyone planning board or anything says anything about the master plan, the idea of the island wasn't part of the master plan, but so everything has an equal and opposite reaction, right?
I understand.
So, because I recall when we did that, we were excited to gain more spaces down there. But I think with that island and that turning lane, I think, and I think they're all the right things. I still, as long, we've got 2 there, so we've increased a little bit. The old fire station is there for now.
Fire station area is huge, unused.
Yep.
and
So if anyone said, just that would be my
Understand.
feedback. So what was up here? So my other question here, folks, so if we're gonna start, and maybe you want this under something else. If we're gonna be adding things to the chapter 210 of the no parking and such, there's a couple things in there. So there's a couple, right now it talks about 3 parking spaces on Pleasant Street in front of the library, which was moved 12 or 15 years ago. Do we want to remove that stuff now, or would we want to do that at another future time when everyone's had a chance to look at it? Which I can put together and send it off for everyone to look at, which makes sense probably now that I say that a lot. That nobody's voted on something 10 seconds before it's brought up. All right, so we won't get the other things. So I will make a motion to approve the no parking 5 Winter, yeah, directly in front of 5 Winter Street prior to the residence driveway.
Second.
Motion and seconded. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Well, big night for Dennis. 2247, consideration and any appropriate action on a request for a crosswalk on Winter Street at Secocas Circle.
Good evening, Dennis Cox, Topsham Public Works. I have had a request from a resident on Secocas, Madeline Beerwood. And Madeline's joining us tonight on Zoom for a request for a crosswalk at Secocas and Winter Street. My initial response was to deny it. It's not my decision to make, it's yours, but through dialogue with Marilyn. I explained that it wasn't an area where we went from a sidewalk to a sidewalk, which is something we try to do in town when we can. We don't have that all over town. I understand that, but where we can, we try to go from sidewalk to sidewalk. Having brought on this discussion from Maryland, what's also come up now is the traffic study for the market basket on Topsham Fair Mall Road. And something that's been identified by the state's required traffic study is that market basket will be required to look into putting a crosswalk in at Secocas and Winter Street for access to their store and for the potential pedestrian traffic in that neighborhood going to the store. So having said that, being brought to light by Maryland, which is great, we may not need to go further with council action as far as support and the cost of the taxpayers if it's a requirement moving forward for market basket. However, the location, which location on Secocas and Winter is a discussion point to be had yet. Madeline is suggesting the intersection of Winter Street and Secocas closer to the curve. As you come up Winter Street towards the mall road, there's a curve, and I've included drawings in my memo to the town manager that was forwarded to you folks. There's a curve there that's kind of the line of sight is a problem. Understanding that a crosswalk protects pedestrians, but it's also something we've got to take into consideration, like a driveway, the line of sight when you put a crosswalk in. You can't just put it. It's not recommended to put a crosswalk in an area where the geometry is such to be dangerous. So we may want to study if we put a crosswalk in, or may suggest to put a crosswalk in it, that Secocas crossing at Winter Street, closer to Granite Hill, where it's more of a longer, straighter stretch of Winter Street for line of sight. I'd like Madeline also partake in the conversation. She's on Zoom, and I just want to share with you our thoughts so far and have her also share her thoughts.
Thank you. Go ahead, Madeline.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for letting me participate by Zoom. I appreciate that. I'm Madeline Breerwood, and I live on Secocas Circle on the side that comes out by this curve that that Mr. Cox was speaking of. And frankly, the curve is the reason that we think we need this crosswalk here, because when we're trying to cross from Secocas onto the sidewalk on Winter Street, cars are coming around the curve. I think we can all agree that they go too fast on Winter Street anyway, and they're coming around this curve fast enough that we can almost make it across the street without them needing to slow down for us, usually. There's a bus stop on this side of Secocas Circle, or on Winter Street on this end of Secocas, on the, I guess it would be the east end. And we have quite a few children on this end of Secocas and on Abenaki Street that will all be needing that bus stop. And some of them use it already, some of them will use it in the future. And I think we can all agree that keeping our children safe crossing the street is a top priority. There are residents that are on Winter Street that have to cross to the Secocas side to get their mail. Their mailboxes are on the non-sidewalk side of Winter Street. And frankly, there are more people on the Abenaki side of and Secocas that if we have this crosswalk on the west end towards the Topsham Fair Mall, residents will all have to go around Secocas where we have no sidewalk on the street, and it wraps around with very little visibility for cars driving locally on Secocas, and it will make our own street more dangerous if we have to all walk around to get to the other side for a crosswalk. And if Market Basket is going to be maybe paying for a crosswalk on the other end, perhaps we could use taxpayer money to pay for one on this end where it would be more safe. And I understand that putting a crosswalk on the street won't help drivers who can't see it ahead of time, but I mean, there are signs that can alert them that there's a crosswalk coming up. You know, we can maybe get a flashing light or something. I mean, there are ways to alert drivers of upcoming crosswalks that would make things more helpful. I've seen people almost hit by cars crossing this street, and it scares me. So we would really appreciate your consideration on this. And I'm happy to take questions or anything from the board.
I got a question for Dennis. So on your picture, Dennis, you got the circle, the proposed crosswalk on the Secocas portion closest to the Topsham Fair Mall Road. That's okay. So 1.5 telephone poles down towards Topsham Fair Mall is a crosswalk today at Granite Hill Drive already.
Yes.
So we're looking at what point is too many? It just seems as though there is one really close. We don't put one at every single intersection. At what point are we overdoing things here? We've already put one in safely, I guess. And why, I guess, at the state saying it, that's the other thing that throws me off is with one already so close, why would the state think another one needs to be right there?
I can't answer for the state. I don't know what that reason is. As far as proximity to an existing sidewalk already, the access to that sidewalk from this neighborhood is null and void. There is no access to that sidewalk from this neighborhood, from Abenaki or from Secocas. Both residential areas, both with children. There's no way to cross Winter Street from either one of those two neighborhoods, either one of those two residents. Or if you were on Mallet to go into that neighborhood walk, there's no way to cross the road to stop. hit a crosswalk. So crosswalks, where do you put them? You put them where the pedestrians are and where they're needed. So if they're consecutive blocks or consecutive blocks, you know, it's just the way they have to fall. In this case here, understand the need of one, understand the pedestrian traffic around the curve of Secaucus up above in the residential area. Hopefully that speeds slower than it would be out on Winter Street traveling through. But again, it's a choice for you people to make. That's why we're here tonight. My recommendation is to put in a crosswalk. Absolutely. I think there's a crosswalk needed from this neighborhood. The location of that, my recommendation would be up above closer to Grant because of this line of sight, but that's only because of the line of sight. There's other reasons to move that. School bus stop. I'm not sure if the school bus stop is located there because of the number of children, or if it's taking in children that are up on Mallet Drive as well, that come down the street that end. I'm not sure. Okay, I'm just saying, I don't know what the criteria is to create that school bus stop. A criteria of a crosswalk, one of the several criteria is its geometry of the road where it's located. Being in the geometry of a curve is why I only mention it. So doesn't mean it can't be there. And rapid flashes beacons are put in crosswalks to help draw attention to drivers, things like that. All can be done here if you'd like. That's all things that we can move forward with. It's just the dynamics of this location is kind of something we need to discuss and move forward with on the same page, including the residents and their concerns.
So my question, following up on that, how much do those signs that are flashing down across from me shows, like going down the hill, like is that a significant expense, the 25 mph ones?
I'd have to look into it, Matt. Things have changed so much in the last few years. Probably that's a solar light. It's probably in the neighborhood of $10,000, to be honest with you. Some of those aren't recommended for health reasons. I'm not sure that's the case because of the strobing portion of that with epileptic concerns. That's why they took them off the lights at 196. The signal light heads used to have those on it, and they were taken off.
Yeah.
So can we do it? Sure, we can. I apologize, but they sell them every day. We certainly can put one up on that street. I recognize the need for pedestrian safety in the area, and I think there is a need here for a crosswalk.
One advantage of maybe waiting a little bit to let Market Basket look at it. The state's told them to have their traffic engineer evaluate this and comment upon it. And then the town's traffic engineer will comment upon it. So it might be a chance to get some people that are specialized in traffic engineering to figure out the best spot rather than jumping in right now and maybe picking the wrong spot.
What's that report do? You guys know?
They were just told last Friday. I know they're anxious to try to get their permits, so I don't know for sure what date it's due, but I know that they're already working on it. I think Kate's already had a meeting with our traffic engineer and theirs, talking to the state more about what they're looking for in the response. I think if you were to maybe put this aside for 2 months or something, then probably things will have Market Basket will have done something as far as their report.
I think I hear what Dennis saying, we need something. And rather than us just pulling something out of the air and hoping we're right, may not be the right solution. So I would say, yeah, there's support for it, but I kind of like what the assistant town manager said also is to get a little bit more, get it in the right spot. I guess that at the end of the day, we want to make sure that it's in the right spot. That's kind of where I'm leaning, I guess.
If I may, I expect that their traffic engineers would want the crosswalk on the other side, on the side closest to the mall, because it would be closer to their store. And so it would help facilitate pedestrian traffic that's closer to the mall where the store would be. And I don't know that the other concerns would come into play as much.
So this is where I'm confused then. The map we have in front of us has a circle of the proposed sidewalk on Secocas closest to Topsom Fair Mall Road.
I think
But
that,
you're asking for it on the curve.
and I guess I didn't realize until today that my request hadn't been clear on which end of Secocas I was asking for it on, but
That, okay,
And you can see in the,
yeah.
but I understand what you're saying with the straightaway and everything, that it, you know, that makes sense, but it's, I mean, frankly, it's more dangerous coming from the Abenaki side, and we need something to slow down cars and require them to stop. The bus stop, you had asked if they were picking up kids from Mallet Drive, and I could tell you I walk that street every day to go to and from daycare. And all of the kids on Mallet Drive get picked up at their house. The stop on Winter Street at Secocas is just for two houses right on Winter Street and the kids from Secocas and Abenaki.
So I feel even more strongly now, because I will say I don't support on the corner. I think that's very clear that that wouldn't be where you would put a crosswalk, but I think it's about waiting, but I will not support one there at that corner. I thought we were talking the other entrance of Secocas Circle strictly. But I think placing a sidewalk there doesn't take away the danger in any manner. I mean, a crosswalk, I'm sorry, doesn't take away the danger of crossing when you're on a corner like that.
my concern is you're bringing them to a dangerous curve.
Correct.
I appreciate why there's a school bus stop. Maybe we can work with the school and move that school bus stop if there's crossing there for that reason. But it's a factor in locations of a crosswalk.
Yeah.
The geometry of the road. In this case here, it creates a problematic, but I also respectfully understand the resident.
And there's no way to get flashing lights with it or anything, or a warning there's a crosswalk coming up or anything. I mean,
I don't think anyone wrote that off in any way.
No, that's all doable. Absolutely. Yeah.
I think, Mark, your point about waiting to see exactly what the state and market basket consultants are gonna come up with, I think that resonates with me. I mean, it's a pretty short time away. Also, the fact that, I mean, this area is already congested as heck for people going into the mall, the back end. And it's gonna get however many times worse once that supermarket opens up. I mean, I think we really should. Let's wait for the report, see what the state and DOT say about this and their consulting firm, but I mean, something has to happen back here, especially, I mean, this makes a lot of sense. Because it's already pretty crazy. And even just, I mean, taking a right off of Winter Street to get to the mall, it's a sharp turn. People slow down to basically going, because you got to really slow down there. I mean, it's just such a weird intersection, so. I'm sorry, I'm addressing you, this isn't you. But yeah, so I certainly hear the residents' concerns, but I'm inclined to just wait and see what their report comes up with, and then I'm sure something is going to happen back there, whether it's a crosswalk or those flashing signs or something to that effect.
Or both.
Yeah.
well, we appreciate your consideration and hope something happens.
Oh, so I'm gonna make a motion to table it. We're not gonna just kill it tonight. So my motion will be to table it until the traffic reports are received based on the market basket study. So that's my motion. Then we'll bring it back forward within that time frame and go from there.
And I'm involved with that, so I'll
Oh,
keep this on the front burner myself as well. And if we can, we'll try to address it before school starts up. I've got a bus stop here, let's try to, maybe we can do something before school starts up if we've heard something from the master. Market baskets, traffic stuff.
Yep. So
Thank you.
that's my motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion seconded, all in favor of the table. There we are. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'd like to say thank you from our newest resident too.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
2248, consideration and appropriate action on approval of appointment of a police prosecutor for civil ordinance violations. Chief?
Evening, Mark Hagan, Chief of Police. So we're required occasionally to prosecute civil cases through the district court. And when I'm talking about civil cases, I'm usually talking about a dog ordinance violation, or it might be a speeding ticket or something along those lines. So what we would like to do, we just recently sent two of our personnel to training so that they are now certified to prosecute cases. It's Detective Libby and Lieutenant Collins. What we'd like to do is have the select board appoint them as prosecutors. But the other piece of that, I'm getting ahead of myself, is Title 30 allows the select board to appoint people to represent the town in civil cases like this, or it also allows you to just delegate the chief of police to be able to appoint our personnel directly. So either way tonight, what I'm hoping to do is have Lieutenant Collins and Detective Libby appointed as representatives for the town. But what might be easier for you all in the future is if you just followed Title 30 and just gave me the authority. As personnel change, it might be easier, or as we get other people trained, it might be just easier to allow me the authority so that I can appoint people as prosecutors for the PD.
I'll grab me.
I guess I'm more inclined to not even worry about appointing Libby or Collins and just give it to the chief and then you make them from there.
Yep.
Which will be those two, but.
Right.
Just
No,
give
that'd be
them-
appreciated.
Just give them. That makes sense. So I'm going to read this proposed motion to delegate to Topsham Police Chief Mark Hagan the authority to authorize a law enforcement officer certified by the Maine Criminal Justice Academy to represent the town of Topsham in district court in the prosecution of alleged violations of ordinances pursuant to 30-A MRS subsection 26713.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Consideration and appropriate action on the approval of application to license games of chance for the Topsham Fair, August 9 through 13, which is item 2249. Look at that.
Liam Graham from the Topsham Fair.
Leon, why don't you just give us an overview of what you got going on up there?
Well, we have the game of chance, that's Theo tickets, they pull ticket tabs. They do pan game. And sometimes we do the quarterfinals, but we haven't done the quarterfinals the last few years, we haven't had any help. And now the state recommends that, we have to get another blanket, which we get away with it, I don't know why they want it back, we got a new guy up there, changing everything around. Basically about it, yeah.
I was gonna say, I thought we used to just blanket these.
Yeah.
So it's been a long, long time since I think we've had someone come up.
Well, this new guy, he's got all different ideas. What's going to happen?
Any questions on that? So just for everyone at home to understand, Marie, obviously you serve on the board, and Matt, does your,
No, she did at one point.
okay. So just so everyone at home, I mean, they're serving on the board to the fair. It's not personal income in any way. I don't see this as a conflict. So if no one else has any worries, I think Marie's fine to vote, in my opinion. I don't hear or see anything, so I'm gonna say yes. So, because it's there, the requalifications, I think, are, one of them is, do you have the potential to profit? And if a small town fair, if everyone's involved, a lot of people are involved, it's kind of tough. So that's my explanation to those at home if they have any questions. So I will make a motion that we approve the application to license games of chance for the Topsham Fair from August 9 to August 13. Do I have a second?
Second.
So, no, sorry, go ahead.
So with the proceeds of these games, would they have been included in the audit that Maryland, or excuse me, Mrs. Hunter had proposed earlier this year at the meeting, the board meeting?
Shouldn't be, all the profits go to the state.
Right, like, so it would have been part of that audit that she tried to.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
all right. But that wasn't actually read or looked at, right? The audit.
There's a separate account for just sealed tickets, which is by law.
I'm okay with this.
Okay,
Let's vote.
all right. Been motion seconded. All in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. 2250, consideration and appropriate action on the appointment to the comp plan implementation committee. This evening, we interviewed Andrew Sturgeon. Well qualified. Any questions, comments? Nothing. I'll make a motion to appoint Andrew Sturgeon to CPIC with filling one of the two openings. Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and seconded. All those in favor? Unanimous.
STURG.
That's the motion.
Thank you.
Here we go. Consideration and any appropriate action to award the contract for the townwide LED streetlight conversion. Who is overseeing that? I'll do that. All right.
Okay, for about a year and a half now, probably closer to 2 years, the Energy Committee came forward and working with the assistant planner at the time, wanted to go forward with an RFQ to reach out to explore the benefits of converting all streetlights in town to LED. A RFQ was drafted, it was brought to the board at the time for release. It was approved, and four companies submitted proposals for input back to the town. Of those four, the board, along with the Energy Committee and staff, brought 3 of those companies back for presentations on what they could do for the town. The 3 companies were Real Term Energy, Affinity, and CNP. With Real Term and Affinity, the idea would be that the town would purchase the existing lights from CNP and then replace them with one of their products. With CNP, they replaced the LED lighting, but everything else remained in place. So the only cost savings to CNP would be the energy savings if we go to LED. With Affinity and Real Term, the real savings is in not leasing the equipment anymore, but purchasing the lights and maintaining that the town would make all the maintenance on those lights or replace as needed. So approximately a month or 2 ago, Real Term Energy, Affinity, and CNP came before the board and did a presentation to not only talk about the benefits of the conversion, but also cost benefit and what they would offer the town. Following that meeting, it was directed that the Energy Committee meet with, and staff would meet as well and come together to provide a recommendation for the board to proceed further. As seen in the package, the Energy Committee, as well as the staff, are recommending the town to purchase the lights and award the contract to Affinity and proceed forward. The estimated cost for going to Affinity for the infrastructure purchase and installation is $205,097. And that is the recommendation moving forward. To use Affinity, get the lights replaced, and currently right now, we have enough money. We have money in our capital replacement account to make this happen as soon as possible. With that being said, we also 2 years ago, it was 2 years ago, we budgeted $40,000 to replace the Lower Village lights to LED, which we currently still have. We had waited on that project to wait for the design specs for the bridge lights. So we have that money available to apply towards this project. We also been awarded an LED grant to replace municipal lights here for $46,000 that could also apply to this project. So that would reduce the amount the town would pay by that amount. About $87,000. So are there any questions at this point?
With, the one, we'll do library parking lot, any lights, if the rec department has any around any of their parking lots, we'll do all that, right? Everything that,
Right, with library parking lot that's already been replaced with LED lights this
Yeah.
past year,
okay.
but all other lights in town would be replaced. Right now, currently, our estimate, according to Kathy, our finance director, this morning, is our savings per year for the rental alone would be about $56,000. So we'd be making our money back on this project within 3 years, just on rental alone. We are still looking at savings from our solar projects. We have 2 projects right now. Our second project came online this past December. We're still evaluating that. We have less to go before we get the full idea of what we're really saving. But right now, we're projecting we're saving about $60,000 a year in electricity costs just on those projects alone. We are also looking to working with CMP right now to consolidate our accounts where our energy credits are going. So we will have a better idea what savings with streetlights alone. We'll be able to tell you probably next year. So our recommendation moving forward is to replace our streetlights, and then we go with maybe.
I will say, we attended that presentation. I don't think you'd go wrong with Realtor or Affinity, but the one thing for sure about Affinity, Matt, I think when we texted talking about it, is that individual's, that gentleman, the owner's passion for it is right there in the forefront. And to me, that night, that's what sold me on him. And I'm glad the staff and the committee came in that same thought of Affinity. So I certainly support that. Any other questions, comments?
No, this is the right way to go, I think, as well.
Yeah. So I will make I'll make a motion to award the contract to Affinity for a townwide streetlight LED conversion and to approve the town manager to enter into a contract not to exceed $205,097.
Second.
All those in favor? Nice. 2252, consideration and appropriate action for a corrective deed releasing a tax lien at 44 Prospect Street, tax map U01 lot 31-A. Mr. Woods.
Back in 1995, we recorded a tax lien against 44 Prospect Street. In 2003, the town went to correct the problem, but there was a mix-up, and rather than the town deeding tax map U01 lot 31A to the correct owner, it deeded tax map U1A lot 31, which we actually didn't own any interest in, to the correct owners of that lot. So that lot didn't harm their title because we gave them some, we said they own their land, but they already owned it. But what it didn't do is effectively release the tax lien. The owner of 44 Prospect is trying to sell the property. The title search found that deed, the incorrect one, was worried that Mr. Bouchard, the owner, didn't even own the property he's trying to sell. But if you issue this corrective deed to get rid of the tax lien to the right person, then his title will be clear and he can sell his property. He's current in his taxes, has been paying it regularly for at least since our current unit system's there. So this would just help us clear up the tax lien.
Any questions? No. Make a motion to authorize the treasurer to execute a quick claim deed transferring to John Bouchard of 21 Dealin Circle, Brunswick, Maine, all interest acquired in tax map U01 lot 31-A by virtue of the lien recorded at book 1354, page 185, in the Saginaw County Registry of Deeds. Second? Second. All in favor? Unanimous. We have 2 executive sessions this evening. 22-53, enter into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA subsection 405 6D to discuss labor negotiations. And 22-54, enter into executive session pursuant 1 MRSA subsection 405 6D to discuss another set of labor negotiations. So do I have a motion? I'll make a motion that we enter executive session. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor? We're in executive session. Get it. Hey, Ben.
Congratulations, Chief.
Yes.